All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Sammy Joe here with Alaska MEP, and I am here with my great friend, co-host Kurt Anderson. How are you doing today, Kurt?
Oh my goodness gracious, Sammy Joe, I couldn't be any better. I'm just so thrilled, so excited. We have an amazing guest to introduce, and we're going to just jump right in because we have a lot to cover in a short period of time. I want to introduce my dear friend, Lance Owide. And fascinating fact here, a little fun fact for you, Sammy Joe. This young man was in England, and he was kind of like the Wall Street guru of, he's a Wall Street guy. But anyway, Lance, happy Thursday, my friend, from Big Commerce. Happy Thursday. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you, Sammy, Joe, and Kurt for having me on. I'm really excited to be here, talking manufacturing, talking e-commerce, two of my favorite subjects. So thank you so much for having me on.
Well, we'll dive right in. And so what I love, big financial background that you bring to the table. And now you've brought your passion, your expertise, your energy to the world of e-commerce and really helping manufacturers nationwide get into that e-commerce journey. Sammy Joe, let's just dive right in. I know you've got some juicy questions that you have prepared for Lance. Let's hit that first one.
Perfect. Thanks, Kurt. And thanks so much for being here, Lance. Want to kick off by starting, why should manufacturers care about selling online?
Yeah, it's a great first question, and I'm going to give a strange answer. It's a weird one.
Ooh.
I'm going to say maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they shouldn't. Ooh, that's a bit strange.
Joe, like we're dropping the mic in like the first 30 seconds. My goodness gracious. Lance, curious minds want to know. Please share.
Why? Well, everyone looks at retail and sees these fantastic e-commerce sites and thinks, I need to have that. But the truth is, you need to, as a manufacturer, you have to understand what is it that you want to drive with your business. What are you looking to do, right? Are you looking to grow revenue? Are you looking to increase profitability? Are you looking to improve manufacturing standards? Are you looking to develop new products? If your number one KPI, key performance indicator, the number one target you have for the year is to build new product, I don't know that you need e-commerce for that. Now, of course, you could have e-commerce as well, and that can bring benefits that may help you build more product because for reasons that we'll get into. But I think it's really important to start there, which is that, often folks like myself, I work for a company, Big Commerce, that is selling e-commerce platforms. We'll often stand here and say, you need to be on e-commerce. If you're not, you're crazy. But the truth is, if that's not in your business plan, that's perfectly fine and legitimate. Maybe it is in the next 2 years. But of course, for those businesses that say, I want to drive revenue, I want to grow revenue, or I want to increase profitability, e-commerce can be a fantastic tool for doing that, right? Today, you may have a traditional sales team, and that sales team is fantastic, incredibly knowledgeable. Your customers love them. They love talking to them, but they can only reach so many people. Their Rolodex is only so big, and they only have so many hours in the day, right? So if you can get your products onto a website, suddenly you've expanded your reach. Anyone can find your product. It's incredible. Suddenly you will have outreach from customers that weren't in your Rolodex, that you hadn't even thought to reach out to. And suddenly you can drive revenue from new avenues. And there's a story, I really like it. It is a distributor instead of a manufacturer, this one, but it's just so good that I have to share it. There is a book distributor on Big Commerce. They use Big Commerce. And in February of this year, they rang up one of the senior folks on my team and said, today, Monday, we came into the office and there is $1 million order in our order book. We usually have an average order of $1,500. This is from a customer we've never heard from before. We do not know them. Incredible. That is the power of e-commerce. That would never have happened if they weren't online and searchable. And they went and asked the customer, how did you find us? They did a Google search. They just did a Google search. And so to me, that is the number one reason that manufacturers should care about e-commerce is just the ability and ease with which you can then expand your business. And that's just naturally through growth. You are so much more findable and easy to find when you're online and your products are there. And and customers can do their own research, you know?
Well, man, Lance, first off, congratulations to you and the team at Big Commerce. And just look at how you're changing lives. And, it's what we love to say about the MEP. We call the MEPs dream supporters. Every entrepreneur has a dream. And just, what you're doing at Big Commerce is just so admirable of helping small entrepreneurs achieve those dreams. My goodness, Sammy Joe, can you imagine, walking in the door on a Monday, you hit the inbox, there's a 7-figure order sitting in your inbox. I think this is a perfect segue. I know Dr. Alyssa has a great juicy question for Lance. Let's hit him with that one, Sammy Joe. What do you got next?
Yeah. So Dr. Alyssa, as Kurt said, she wanted to make sure that we asked how do manufacturers grow with Big Commerce?
Yeah, that's a really
orders, right?
Yeah, right.
Get more of those $1 million orders, and you're good. Who wouldn't turn down that growth, right? No, so with Big Commerce, we're an e-commerce platform, but we focus much more heavily on manufacturers and distributors. So building tools specifically for manufacturers to use. But how exactly is that gonna help you grow, and how are you gonna grow on our platform? And what we do is we kind of support what we call a crawl, walk, run strategy. As you look at retail today, and every manufacturer thinks, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get to a Macy's style site? The truth is, you don't have to. You don't have to do that. What you want to do is take manageable chunks along that e-commerce journey, right? But be on a platform like a Big Commerce that can support that growth as you go through it. And so what we do is we tell manufacturers, start by just getting your products online. Just get your products online, searchable with product information. Now you're available to anyone in the US, maybe anyone in the world, if you can support delivering to them and you can support those logistics. And your buyers that you currently have are then able to start searching through that catalog and doing their own research, outside of course, the catalog that you're probably still sending them. So now we've got through step one, products are online, I'm expanding because I'm more easy to find, and I don't want to use the buzzwords, but when you're on, using Big Commerce, it's SEO optimized, and you can pay for Google Ads and all of everything in the box that is important that we could spend hours talking about. Next, if you're a manufacturer, I've attracted the customer in. That's for step one. Now I need to convert them. I want to close this sale. So how do I do that? How does e-commerce make that easier? Well, one, it's easier to engage them. You can build fantastic looking sites with all of that product information that they can self-serve in their own time. So it cuts out a lot of the work that the sales team has to do, making it a much simpler process for your sales team. By the time the customer comes to the salesperson, they're already familiar with the products. So that's great for the sales team. It's also great for the buyer. I like to do my research on my phone, which is great. So products online, they're being found. Now we've got to get that product into a cart and check out. So now step two, start transacting online, right? Transact online. What does that mean? Well, in manufacturing, you probably have bespoke pricing for each of your customers. You probably have specific catalogs that each of your customers might have, right? You've built custom products that only they can purchase, maybe with specific logos on, lots of variations. So you need to be able to support all of that, right? You need to be able to support all of that online, and then allow your customers to check out with the same terms, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, same invoicing, right? That has to be, and the same payment methods. That might be credit card, but it's much more likely to be bank transfer. You need to support all of that, right? And when you do, you've just removed those barriers, what we call barriers to transacting, barriers to converting. You've removed those barriers. So you can now grow. That customer that placed the $1 million order, they went through that process. They got to the end, they bank transferred the data, the funds right at the end. And so you remove those barriers. The more barriers you get rid of, the easier it is to then convert. And the last step, and we can maybe talk about this next, but is then you want to take it kind of to the next level. A lot of custom manufacturing, so quoting will be occurring. Like, then you want to take that online and bring that process into e-commerce as well. And then you've made it so much easier for the sales team. If I, as a customer, can start my own quote online, it's incredible. And it's a process that I mean, I'm really enjoying being part of. I don't have to pick up the phone, wait 2 days for an email. I can see all of it there online.
Well, Lance, this is phenomenal. And so just to unpack, so Sammy Joe, we've done a number of webinars and workshops with our Alaska manufacturers. And, one of our taglines, Lance, we love to say, how can you help that ideal customer make a buying decision on a Friday night at midnight without having to wait for them to open up the door on Monday morning, And so when that, man, I'm getting chills even thinking about it, digital self-serve, what a powerful experience. I hate to say this. I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings, Lance. It's like we're almost doing our customers a disservice by not taking this step. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like wasting their time of like, hey, can I place this order? Hey, can send the email out? So I love what you're saying. Hopefully we'll have time. I think we're doing good on time. You talked about custom. We'll circle back on this. We love configurators. I'm hoping we'll have a couple of minutes at the end because I want to talk about your proprietary products compared to those custom manufacturers that have a proprietary process that can take advantage of e-commerce. But Sammy Joe, let's slide into the next question. I know, Lance, we got everybody on the edge of their seat, so now they have to come back to the end, right? Sammy Joe, what do you have next for our next question?
Perfect. So how can e-commerce complement the traditional sales channel, and how can these channels work together?
Oh, that's
this is a really, and it's a hot topic. It's not just a good question; it's a hot topic. I work, I meet 2, 3, 4 manufacturers a day sometimes, and invariably in 50% of those conversations, channel conflict with my sales team comes up. I'm coming onto e-commerce. I'm moving on to e-commerce. My sales team think this is competitive to them. What do I do? What do I do? And the first answer we have, it really isn't. It's not, and I'll tell you why. E-commerce is really complementary to that sales team. Your sales team are fantastic at selling your products. They understand them better than anyone else, and they're great at finding new buyers, finding new customers for you. They're also currently, if you're not on e-commerce, taking orders, answering the phone to pay invoices, and probably answering the phone to questions like, can you give me an update on where my shipment is? That is not something your sales team should be doing and want to do. That doesn't help them get more commission. It doesn't help you close new customers and new deals. And so when you move on to e-commerce, all of that can just move online. You can have your order status online. So I, the buyer, want to know, where is that shipment? I can see it. I can see it's been shipped. I know where it is. I can get to a tracking number if it's there. I want to pay my invoice. It's there, available online. I don't have to phone anyone up to do it. And these things, they sound so small. But if you went and polled your sales team and asked them how much time do they spend answering these questions and on manual processes, you would be very, very, very surprised at how much it is. And when you save them that time, they'll thank you. They will thank you, and then they will drive more revenue. What does that mean? It means that they're going to get higher commissions. So they'll be actually incredibly thankful for it. And I know we still get some pushback. And for merchants out there, manufacturers out there who say, well, do I pay commission on these sales online? One of the things we always ask them to consider is, what are the efficiency gains that you're getting by selling online? How is this improving your margins? Because we know it is, right? That manual process that has now disappeared, that's an efficiency gain. And if you consider that efficiency gain, well, maybe you can even give your sales team more commission for sales that happen online, incentivize them to do those sales online so they can just focus on getting new customers in and answering those hard queries and questions about the product. So lots to consider, but we really do believe that e-commerce is complementary to the sales team. And once sales teams understand that and get the processes bedded in, they love it and never want to look back. They rue the day that they had to manually answer the phone to pay an invoice.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a 7-figure order to do it either. It can be those small orders. And again, as a salesperson out there, when we can put those menial tasks like you're describing, Lance, that just, oh man, I'm so busy. I've got 20 emails. I've got to do this. Like if you could pull that off your plate, put that on your e-commerce store, let them do the small, little mundane customer service tasks. So then you can go out and be that superstar salesperson that you really are. And, do cold calls, knock on new doors, get people, send out new links, do a video on how to use my e-commerce store, you talked earlier about the crawl, walk, run. With that crawl process, really like that, we're doing an amazing project. Sammy Joe, I don't know if you know this, Lance and I are doing a wonderful project. And here where I'm at in Buffalo, New York, and with a manufacturer through the MEP in New York, and they're doing exactly that crawl, walk, run, and they've opened a door for a customer portal. And that customer portal can answer a lot of these questions. So Sammy Joe, let's keep the party rolling. What do you have next? Man, you have some amazing questions. What's next on your plate there?
I feel like this segues perfectly because you were just diving in on this, but let's talk a little bit more, dive a little bit deeper into channel conflict and how do we ensure the sales team don't see e-commerce as competitive?
Yeah, I think I touched on that a little bit ago. I guess I got a little bit ahead of myself, or maybe I was having a premonition about what that next question might be. But it's a really, really good one. Because we hear this all the time from manufacturers, and once a sales team understands the benefits that we just laid out, generally they come around. But to double click onto the point I was sort of making at the end there, which is that when you implement e-commerce and you start to see the improvements in those processes, the saved time, right, the time that isn't wasted on manual processes, that's just for the sales team. On the back end, you now have a system that is taking that order, can feed it straight to a QuickBooks or an ERP. Maybe you're using a NetSuite or an Acumatica or whatever that might be. These other systems that you're using without any manual data entry on the way. So it's not just front office improvements, it's right. Back office improvements and logistics improvements. When you factor all of that in, you start to see real margin gains in the business. And on top of that, online, and we saw this with the Buffalo manufacturer that Kurt was talking about, they expand their reach. Those customers are coming in and they're finding them online. And what they have them doing is not checking out, but starting a quote. Mm-hmm. So you find their website. They're a manufacturer of antennas. You find the website. This is pretty bespoke. And you fill in a quote request online. So it actually becomes a channel for the sales team. This funnels straight to the sales team. So they love it. They absolutely love it. Right. And so then, you've seen improvements in the back office and the front office that you could potentially use to increase commissions to the sales team if you wanted. But they're also getting funneled new customers. And so once you start to see that flow happening, the sales team generally are pretty accepting. What do you think? Kurt?
Yeah, well, how about let's slide into this. So, took a deep dive on a sales team. Let's go into channel conflict. If, Sammy Joe, I think you mentioned channel conflict. I'd like to go here for a second. I just, my call right before this, great manufacturer, they sell to a lot of retail, Macy's, Target, big major retail. And yet they have e-commerce. And there is a challenge like, and especially for like traditional manufacturers that are in that B2B supply channel. How about if I'm being clear enough or not too broad, Lance, how about channel conflict when you get pushback of like, man, I can't go e-commerce because I'll disrupt those channels. What conversations do you have there for those folks?
Yeah, we hear that quite a lot as well. And I've got a great example here. There's a manufacturer called Hauser Sinks. You can guess what they manufacture. And they sell to retailers across the US. So you'll find them in Home Depot, you'll find them in Lowe's, and they sell through those channels. But they wanted to go direct to consumer and they wanted to test out that channel. Now, why did they do it? It's sort of obvious. They wanted to capture a bit more margin. But they obviously don't want to necessarily be competitive to those that are already selling. So they dipped their toe, and I'm going to say the naughty A word here, which is they started selling through Amazon. That's how they went direct to consumer. I know. Interesting. And I know what everyone's probably saying. No. I can't sell through Amazon, they did something that was really interesting, actually. They, like probably most of the listeners, have operations that are set up for delivering truckloads, right? Not anything less than a truckload, and certainly not individual items. And so they used Amazon. They shipped off a truckload to Amazon. Amazon put it in their warehouse and then could send out individual, singular items to the consumers. So it was a really interesting way to go about dipping their toe into direct to consumer. And then they launched the e-commerce site. So they sold through Amazon. They launched their e-commerce site. And what they did was they said, okay, we're going to attract customers through Amazon, and then we're going to drive them to our e-commerce site directly, because they'll see the name. We'll give them a nice little slip in the package that they're going to get that says, hey, come visit our website. And so they slowly boost that traffic on their website. But that person is someone who's already shopping on Amazon. It's not competitive to the Lowe's or the Home Depot or to their other distributors. And so it was a very interesting case study. I do agree, though, it can be tricky. It can be difficult, especially when you then get into the advertising side. You know, if you start paying for ads on Google that are driving traffic to your website and your distributors are doing the same, there's some conflict there. And you have to set the boundaries and make sure that you've discussed this with your distributors beforehand. There's nothing worse than getting an angry distributor calling you and saying, we're competing for the same search words on Google now, and you are beating me out because the manufacturer has more margin.
Right. Well, man,
I'm really curious your thoughts there.
Man, we've got so much. I've got so much unpack right there. We'll keep it short because I know we've got a few more questions here. What I just talked with a client this morning, they're a custom manufacturer. He's been around since 1985, pre-e-commerce. He said I had about a dozen to 20 customers. And and mind you, they were big. His one, Walmart they bought his fixtures, so he wasn't selling retailing. They were the end user. Lowe's, Target, So he goes in. So he had some major customers, right? He goes in e-commerce. He told me he now has hundreds of customers. You know how some of these hundreds of customers are? Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Ford. So he continues to sell Fortune 500 companies and small, but now what he did, exactly what you described, he got into a consumer market. He's on Amazon, he's on DigiKey, he's tried Zorro. So he's he's embraced the marketplaces. And I know from big commerce, they're like, hey, wait a minute, but the marketplaces are going to be there. The marketplaces are a great way for a manufacturer who's shipping pallet loads or truckloads to get into that consumer market without getting into the consumer part. And I've had a number of clients that they use Amazon. That's they're strictly B2B. Amazon or the marketplaces are their B2C. So there's, and I'll end on this and we'll pan it back to you, Sammy Joe. I have a little book that I wrote. So I call it the Dominate Search. And then my Dominate Search strategy, use the marketplaces, because the marketplaces are going after the exact same keywords that you're going after. So if I can have my keyword, my ranking, Amazon, DigiKey, Zorro, I want to own that keyword. I don't care where people buy my product, but like you're saying, Lance, they can use Amazon and hey, what's the actual company? And now come to my website and use, because people love to buy direct. It's like going to Expedia and I see what airlines they have, then I'm going to go to the airline and buy it direct. So, Sammy Joe, I'll stop on that. I know we've got.
I have one point just before, and just a small one. We saw this a couple of years back. We saw this revolution happening for manufacturers moving into a bit of direct to consumer, testing out marketplaces. We actually bought a company called Feedonomics. They are the best company for sending product data to the likes of Amazon, Walmart, eBay, Wish, the B2B marketplaces, Zorro, Fair. And so with big commerce, you get access to Feedonomics, our other product that can syndicate all of that data out for you, which is number one in the, I think it's now 35% of all internet retailers, top 1,000 retailers in the US use this product. B2Bs can use it as well, which is really fantastic.
You know what? And just either hit the rewind button or Feedonomics. Feedonomics. If you piqued your curiosity, of course, connect with Lance, have a conversation, reach out to Sammy Joe. We'll get you connected to Lance. But Feedonomics, great. Thank you for that was a great segue. Let's go into our next question, Sammy Joe.
Yeah. So we work with a lot of small manufacturers here in Alaska, and a lot of things that we hear is moving online can be daunting, time consuming, and expensive. So how can our smaller manufacturers approach getting online, and what should be some of their key considerations?
Yeah, that's a great point. And it is daunting. It can be expensive if you don't do it right and plan correctly. I always tell manufacturers, and actually this goes for, we've got manufacturers doing 6 billion in revenue on big commerce and a couple of 100,000, everything in between. And I generally say the same thing. Just one, focus on your buyer. Interview your buyer, understand what they want, understand their buying journey. And when you do that, you get a much better idea and picture of what it is that they want and how you can improve their life. At the end of the day, if you're going online or you're thinking about it, it's to improve your buyer journey as well as expansion, but you really want to improve that buyer journey. So once you've understood that, you'll have a much clearer picture of what you need to achieve. And so the antenna manufacturer that Kurt was talking to, when they understood that buyer journey, they realized, I don't need to transact online. That's not what my buyer wants. They still want to speak to a salesperson. But what they would like to do is find the product and then request the quote. They'd like to put the quote together online and then speak to the salesperson. So they move that bit of the process online. And so once you speak to the buyer, understand that journey and pick and find out which part of that process they really do care about going online, that's where you fit into that crawl, walk, run strategy. And so you pick off the crawl piece that is achievable and well within budget, and you tackle that first, right? And you do want to do it on a obviously an e-commerce platform that you can then continue to grow on, but you really attack that piece first. And what we often hear, I want everything. I want to be online. I want to have all my invoices online, buyer approval work. I want to have everything. Sure, let's get there in time, but let's start with something just small and manageable. And so I love the kind of crawl, walk, and then run.
So, Sammy Joe, let's do this. We're coming into time. If you don't mind, I'm gonna cannibalize. If I could steal the last question, and so
Absolutely.
give a little teaser earlier in the interview. Lance, we've got like less than 2 minutes or so. Configurators. Let's start running, man. Like we've got past the crawl. We're kind of walking a little bit. There's a manufacturer out there. If you think about, boy, wouldn't it be great if somebody could go on my website and configure, AKA build their own product? Give us just a little, take us there, brother. What's that look like?
Yeah, there's nothing better than seeing a fantastic configurator online. So BigCommerce as a platform, we kind of support 600 variants of a product. That's a lot of variants that you can then put in and work around. And there's an amazing example of this. One of the companies on BigCommerce, Uplift Desks. They sell desks that go up and down, and they're a manufacturer of them. They sell them both direct to consumer and they sell B2B. If you go on their website, they have built the most incredible configurator using BigCommerce. I worked it out the other day. I think there's something like 10 million variations that you can have of this desk, because there are so many variants you can put in, that you can select the color, the material, the size, the shape, even down to the grommets and the widgets that are being used. And that's what B2B manufacturing is. When we're manufacturing, there's lots of different customizations that your buyers can make and want to make to these products, and you want to put as much of that as you can online. Of course, this is a run or fly, or this is all the way on the far right hand side of the scale, but you can get there. And again, as you're going along that journey, you want to have the platform that can support and that can grow with you. That's really, really important. But yeah, there are some great, we've got some fantastic label manufacturers, packaging manufacturers, and you can customize them and put your own logo. You upload it onto the site and you can see it live there. You can change all the coloring, all online. Before that was, 10 emails back and forth. Here's the design. Now it's online and done. And they can even place the order online. And all the discounted pricing is on there. You're ordering 1,000, here's your price. To 10,000, here's the price you're going to get. Or you want to negotiate, send us a quote. We'll come back and we can negotiate. So some really, really great stuff. And when you move, it's just the buyer experience is just, it's fantastic.
It's phenomenal. And you know what? We could have a whole session just on configurators, Lance, and maybe you and I will have to talk about that. But I know we're at time. We could probably go for another hour. Lance, I want to give a huge thank you for joining us. What an honor and privilege. And we just wish you just continued success as you just keep crushing it for manufacturers nationwide. So, Sammy Joe, why don't you close us out? And thank you for the opportunity to spend this time with Lance today. What a gift.
Yes, thank you so much, Lance. It was super great having you on the show, and thank you so much for being able to talk about the big commerce platform and how efficient it makes people just to get online and start selling. Like you talked about right at the very beginning, they would not have $1 million sell if they were not online. So is that not reason enough to get online? So I really appreciate you taking the time and being here. Kurt, it's always wonderful to have you on. So thank you so much. And tune in with us. We'll be live every other Thursday at noon. Thank you.